What's up guys, Aaron Miles here, former world champion, part of Untilt Gaming, going to be bringing you my top 8 commentary of this year's top 8 for the World Grand Prix. The first feature match is going to be Daniel Voon versus Leonardo Michelli. Hope I pronounced that right, sorry Leo if I didn't. So yeah, this one's going to be a Fox mirror. It's going to be Daniel Voon on Black-Green Fox versus Leo on the Blue Fox that we saw premiere at Worlds. And I have both of their deck lists right next to me, so if I see a play that doesn't really seem to make a whole lot of sense from an outside perspective, hopefully I can look at the deck list and give a little more insight, because these two do know each other's deck lists. It is the top 8 of an event. And Leo is going to be on the play, as he did finish first in Swiss. So Leo's going to put back, it looks like 3 cards. And I'm going to try to provide as much commentary as I can. There's not a whole lot that I'm going to be able to do in, like, the first few turns. It's going to be something like, oh, so-and-so hit a killing stone, but I'm going to try and talk about, what they can do to get back in the game at any given moment, just looking at their deck lists kind of thing. And for the most part, the answer to that is going to be top deck Kitsune King. So Leo hits turn 1 killing stone. It's a pretty good start for him, obviously, and then he's going to beans into the Demonic Dead. Pretty standard Fox play. When you're testing against Fox, this is the play that you don't want to see. So good luck to Daniel Voon in game 1. And after that, that's pretty much going to end his turn. And I believe that's Daniel's Energized token right there. Yeah. And I'm going to be keeping track of the life totals up at the top. It's possible that I'll miss something or be a little slow on the uptake, so just bear with me on that. And then Daniel does not hit a turn 1 killing stone. He actually hits the shit brick, which is absolutely not what you want to see. He's going to go ahead and put his counters on that. Use his Energize into a messenger, and he's going to take a look at his stone deck. And alright, it was a Black Silence on top, so that was a good play. It always feels bad when it's killing stone on top when you play the messenger, but it's kind of a play that you have to make. So it's nice to be, when you get a look at it and go, oh, it's a good thing I did this, otherwise I would have been screwed. So Daniel's going to go ahead and pass the turn. Leo's going to draw. He's going to look at his hand a little bit. There is a Keys' Call in there. That's really the only card that I could make out, and I think a Severing Winds. So Leo's going to do Judgment, get that dreaded turn 1 Fox flip. And he's got a Divine Bird, so he's going to pay 500, bring back that Demonic Dead, and I'm just going to upgrade the life totals because I know he's going to be using a Fox effect, so it's going to be 3,900 Daniel Voon to 3,600 Leo. Alright, they are updating. It sounds good. So he's going to draw for his bird, get his Chimera. Griffin's going to call the first 2 stones, and it's a green, blue, and a killing stone. Pretty much picture perfect in the eyes of Leo. So the question is, does he tap that killing stone for a 1-drop and potentially lose to Severing Winds? He has to keep open the blue mana for... Actually, there's no real reason to keep open the blue mana for Keys' Call this turn. He's calling a killing stone, which means he can't flip this turn. Not a whole lot to worry about. And he's just going to go ahead and shuffle that in, not wanting to lose to Severing Winds, I believe, as Daniel does run... Daniel actually only runs 2 copies of the card, nothing super threatening, whereas Leo is running 4. So, obviously, I can't see Leo's hand super well. All I can see is that Keys' Call, but, a little weird that he didn't play anything else there. So there is the Killing Stone for Daniel Voon. What's he got? He's got a Planting Means of his own. Let's see what Leo's going to do. He's thinking Leo does run Millennia Bonds. He could Demonic Dead and make a Griffin and hardcast the Severing, but that's actually what it looked... Okay, yeah, that's what he's going to do, it looks like. Because if it was Millennia Bond, I don't see him really doing anything else. Where did this program go? There we go. So it's going to be 38 for Voon and 32 for Leo, after all is said and done between the Demonic Dead and the Killing Stones. And there's really nothing that, Daniel can do to stop the Griffins coming out of Leo. So there's the second Griffin. No response because you have 1 black-green mana. So Leo's going to go ahead and get his stones. It's going to be 2 blue-greens. And he's going to go ahead and cast his Severing Winds. And there's a Fair spell for the Severing Winds. And then another Severing Winds from Leo onto that onto the Planting Means. So that's one of the cool things about Severing Winds. Drawing multiples of this counterspell actually doesn't feel bad. just because it does when you counter wars. He's going to go ahead and call a Killing Stone, the perfect thing to hit there, and he's going to attack for 12. Oh, yeah, he's going to attack for 12. Duh. That's my job. I'm used to being the player that has to get their life total updated, not the other way around. So he's going to cast Kitsune King. Easily the strongest play that this deck has. Kitsune King has really changed the face of Fox, and I'll admit it's a card that I wasn't sold on at first. Even when I went to Summer Nationals and Kitsune King it had just done very well at the previous GP Tacoma, I was still on the Avatar package. I wasn't really sold on this, but I've kind of come around for the most part. Pretty much anytime you cast this card, you're in a very good position to win the game, especially with Demonic Dead. So Leo's got a couple options here. He could... Personally, I don't... no, you kind of have to make a Griffin because you want that blue mana open so you can Keys' Call his Griffin. But if you don't hit a Killing Stone, you're in a... No, if you don't hit a Killing Stone off your Griffin, it's fine because you can still... you can still Keys' Call their Chimera and it doesn't really matter, but he's gonna get 3 stones out of this, so the chances of him missing a Killing Stone are actually very low. Yeah, there's a Griffin, a Killing Stone, and another Killing Stone. And by Griffin, of course, I meant Deep Blood. So he's got, what, 1, 2, 3 cards in hand, if I counted that correctly. So his options now, I think he's probably just going to pass. That was a big turn. And he's been playing around Severing Winds all game, but he know that Daniel doesn't have it now because he would have used it on the Severing Winds on the Planting Beans. So Leo's going to float a mana, bring back Demonic Dead. There's an updated life totals real quick. So he's gonna Manticore him, I would guess. Be a little weird to do anything else. So the other option that he had was waiting for him to play something and omiting the messenger. But he's gonna Manticore. We see a hand of Planting Bean, Shade Bird, Time of Dark Purge. So I would assume he's going to go ahead and take that Planting Beans away from him. He committed very hard to stopping the first one, and based on the position in the hand, and Daniel's deck being on the left side of him, I would assume that Planting Beans was drawn for turn. And this is actually going to be... And he takes the bird. That's interesting. Oh, he doesn't want him to have a flying blocker, but you could just omit the flying blocker. It seems a little weird to me. Well, I guess if he left the bird, then he could play a Tama, make a Chimera with the messenger, and then play the bird and have 2 flyers. But yeah, I can see where Leo's coming from in this play. Because now he's in a position where, like, it doesn't really matter. Oh no, Leo's right. Yeah, no, Leo was right. You 100% take the bird, because if you take the Planting Beans, then he summons the Tama, and then he plays a bird, and he has a Griffin and a bird to block you, and you don't necessarily win the game the next turn, unless you can, play something from your hand. But because he left so much mana open, I'm assuming Leo actually doesn't have another creature in his hand. It is a very spell-heavy blue Fox deck that they're playing, whereas if you take the bird, then the Beans is irrelevant because you're going to Keys' Call whatever Chimera he makes, so he's actually just locked out onto those 2 stones, and as long as he doesn't have a second flyer, you can just push through for game. So, yeah, Leo was 100% correct there to take the bird out of his hand instead of the Planting Beans. So Daniel's pretty much out of this game, and he knows it. It's just a matter of going through the motions of it. So we're going to sit here and patiently wait for Daniel Voon to lose game 1. Just, taking another look at his opponent's graveyard, trying to make sure 100% that there's nothing he can do. I do the same thing. If you ever beat me in a game of Force of Will, it takes me about 5 minutes to lose the game, because I'm just like, no, there's something I can do. I can get out of this. I'll be like tapped out. You'll have 2,000 damage overkill, and I'll be like, no, I've got this. So he's just going through the motions. That's going to knock Daniel up to 26 and Leo down to 27. I think Leo's pointing out that he had already made a Chimera for the turn. or maybe a discrepancy on Killing Stone math in the life totals. It's very possible. So he's going to make a Griffin. That's going to get keysed. And I think Daniel's going to realize very quickly that that is the end of the game. Oh, no, he's going to final battle, but there is a Millennia Bond for the final battle. I would assume that he was calling 24. And that would leave him at 200. And he would actually almost be back in the game. Just because Leo, we're assuming, doesn't have any creatures in hand. You know, based on the fact that he didn't play any of the turn before, because he went for the Manticore play instead of like an Omid play. Even with the keys on backup. So yeah, game one gonna go to Leonardo Miceli. Let's see if I can skip through the side decking process a little bit. Understandably takes the players a little while. Oh, back it up. There you go. And you reset the life totals. There we go. So, Daniel Voon going to be going first in this game. Leo is up a game. I don't really have any way to indicate that, unfortunately, but I would assume you're watching this video from the beginning, so that's how you'll know. So, looking at the side decks, Daniel has a Gale Force, a second Rezard, and a second Abdul that probably come in, whereas Leo has one Gale Force, and that's actually probably all he's putting in this matchup. Actually, he might have put in the Tree Root Sprite for Daniel's Wind Secluded, but that would actually surprise me just a little bit. The Dark Purges are another possibility. Oh, Dark Purges almost certainly came in. Actually, Daniel is an Abdul deck, so yeah. The Dark Purges and the Gale Force is probably coming in for Leonardo Miceli, whereas Daniel Voon has one Gale Force, a second Rezard, Lord of the Damned, and a second Abdul Alhazred, Poet of Madness coming in. And that's really what we're looking at here for game two. So the problem with Leo's deck, right, is that it has very, very few answers to Poet of Madness, and I believe that this deck was made in response to my recent Masters performance where I won the event without playing Abdul in my main deck, and the Italians probably, you know, made the assumption that the Americans are going to copy that list, end up not playing Abdul. Turns out all the Americans thought that I'm crazy and an idiot, so they all ran Abdul anyway. Spoiler alert, I also did not run Abdul at Worlds. It made no impact on the tournament. Because my one loss was Prisia, and then I lost in draft. So, Abdul made no difference to my performance at Worlds. So Leo's once again going to have to call a turn 1 Killing Stone and hit a Demonic Dead. Leo's opening, you know, much, much better than Daniel's for the second game in a row, but it is very possible to win games that your opponent opens Killing Stone and you do not. It's not easy, and it's not always, you know, great, but you can do it. Especially, there's an Abdul. Alright, so Daniel's off to a good start. As I was saying, Leo has very few answers to this. He has 2 Dark Purge, 3 Final Battle, and a Bear Magic as his only Abdul answers, and I guess you could count Riding Hood. I'd be a little skeptical to do that, but you could count it. I could see an argument. So Leo's going to call a shit brick of his own, and just kind of stare at his hand for a little bit. This is a high-pressure tournament, high-pressure situation. Leo has to make sure that he plays this absolutely correctly, and I believe I saw a Severing Winds and a Dark Purge in his hand. So Leo's probably just going to forgo his turn here and Dark Purge the Abdul at the start of Daniel. Actually, he should do it on his turn, yeah. Just in case a Severing Winds comes up on Daniel's turn, so just gonna hard cast that Dark Purge at his own turn. Daniel's gonna call a stone. And with more recent iterations of Fox, you actually see a lot where they'll hit the early Killing Stones, but then not flip for a good long while. Daniel's gonna play his Rezard. Leo's gonna bring back Demonic Dead in response. That's gonna put him at 3,500. Alright, so I might lose track of life totals here with Daniel Rezarding. Another thing is going to be Final Battle. I won't know how much they're paying for Final Battle. I'll make assumptions. That's about the best I can do. So Leo is going to flip here. He's got his Energize still. And now he's in a bit of a rough spot because you really don't want to use that Demonic Dead to make a Chimera while the Rezzard is on the field. So he's going to play a Messenger here, and what this does is it kind of opens up an opportunity for Leo to make Amit as his first Chimera, because you know you're going to be hitting a Killing Stone the next turn, and if he can energize into like a Tama or something and use that instead of the Demonic Dead to make an Amit and kill the Rezzard, it's actually going to be a lot better for him than making a Griffin and then losing his Demonic Dead forever. But Leo thinking really hard. This is a really tricky situation to play out of when your opponent has a Rezzard, and it looks like he's going to pass to Daniel. Yeah. So Daniel actually still not in a position to flip really. He's only so far played black creatures that you don't want to throw into the process of making a Chimera. And he's going to play a Tama. And I'd be very surprised if Leo responded to that. So you notice that, excuse me, you'll notice that Daniel hasn't flipped his Fox yet. And it's very pivotal to kind of wait until later in your turn to do something like that. You know, just in case your opponent does have, I don't know, like an unseen pressure for the Tama. Actually, no, you would want to flip before that. It's not very relevant in this situation. I'm just kind of fishing for topics to talk about. So Daniel is going to flip his Fox. Most likely not going to be a response. Yeah, Leo's kind of... So Leo's play is that he flipped his Fox and he's got this black and green creature on board with a Killing Stone. So at any point in response to anything, he can make a Chimera. And he's got a Killing Stone on top, so he has the freedom to go into any Chimera that he wants without worrying about what stones he's getting. Playing the Messenger actually does give you a lot of freedom to play with your Chimeras a little more liberally. So Daniel is trying to Demonic Dead, and Leo's telling him to hold up. And he did Killing Stone, so 36 for Daniel Voon, 34 for Leonardo. So as I was saying, he kind of threatened this, I can make any Chimera I want, and Daniel just straight up called his bluff. He says, I know you're not going to risk your Demonic Dead for this. So he makes a Griffin, hits 2 Killing Stones. It's all 4 Killing Stones in play for Daniel, and by in play I mean have been seen. Obviously the one is in the graveyard. And he's going to play a Wind Secluded, and this is what I was talking about. Okay, and a Severing Winds comes out from Leo. Pretty heads up play. Severing Winds, or not Severing Winds, sorry, Wind Secluded is a very big deal in this matchup. If you can get into a position where your opponent doesn't want to waste their Omits or Manticores to get rid of your Wind Secluded, and then you can just freely make Omits and eat up their board, you're in a very good position, and it doesn't ever feel good to throw away an Omit or a Manticore to kill a Wind Secluded. And I seriously doubt that Leo put in, you know, Heavenly Gusts into this matchup, especially knowing that Daniel runs 3 Fae's spell in the main deck. So Leo needs a final battle, and he needs it soon. And he's pretty safe from a lot of things. Okay, well there's a final battle. Now it's a question of, is Leo paying 24 or 3,000? I didn't see that. We'll assume it was 24 because if Daniel, if he called 24, Daniel can actually play around this. He can bring back his Demonic Dead, make a Chimera with the Griffin, and if it's Amit, then he can force Leo to Amit while the Rezzard is still on the field, which it looks like is what he's going to be doing. I know Leo's not at 33, but until the Amit resolves and either dies or doesn't die, I won't know if he paid 3,000 or 24. So I think Leo's hope was that he would sacrifice the Rezard and the Griffin in order to make something, but it is not so. Leo might have even just paid for the, I'm going to unmute it, see if I can find out. Is that Amit? Very hard to tell. I believe Leo just said he's thinking. Okay, yeah, it's an Amit. He's targeting the Demonic Dead. Leo has Bear Magic in his hand, so he could actually Bear Magic the Rezard, and then make his Chimera. After the Bear Magic resolves, while Amit is still in the chase, make his Chimera. And it looks like that's what he's going to do. Oh, he's actually doing it to the Amit. Alright, so Leo. Sorry for the lack of commentary, I'm just trying to figure out what's going on in this game.
Chasing? Where's that effect? Oh, you're getting slow?
Okay, so that's -2 for Boone.
Where's that effect? Oh, you're...
27.
28?
Did I say 28? Oh, the Killing Stone's still on the chase? That doesn't make any sense. Ooh. So what happens is we're in a very long, complicated chase, and because all of this is in response to Final Battle, and Leo casts Bear Magic, the Final Battle is now Severing Winsable. And Leo's just going to concede, yeah. That was pretty rough for Leo. But wonderfully played by Daniel Boone. And we'll see if I can skip ahead to the next game. What the hell? No. I thought this little thing down here at the bottom was the preview for the video, and I was like, what the hell? I can't comprehend this. Alright, so, oh, too far. We'll just start from there. So, Leo will once again be going first. And that was kind of the black-green fox doing what it can do that the blue fox can't, and that's really just take advantage of the strong double black costing creatures in the Foxmere, such as Abdul and Rezard. Mostly Rezard. Abdul is bad. It's not that I think Abdul is bad. I've done a write-up on it. I'm not going to go into it in this video. I'm not going to talk about it. But so Leo once again for the third game in a row getting his turn 1 beans into Demonic Dead, and Daniel Boone is going to respond with a Tama. Neither player have hit a turn 1 Killing Stone, so we actually get to see a pretty good Foxmere, I would assume. So Leo hits a Killing Stone. There's another Planting Beans in his hand. Never feels good to draw multiple Planting Beans now that there isn't any really good secondary target. When the Kitsune King build first came out with the Demonic Deads, you had Dance of Shadows, Dark Arthur, and Demonic Dead as good Planting Beans targets. Once again, Leo's going to hit an early Killing Stone, and Daniel's going to drop an Abdul. So Leo's going to draw an untap, call another stone. Oh yeah, there's an Abdul on field, of course he's going to call another stone. I was like, why didn't he flip and make a Chimera? But there's an Abdul on board, so that makes sense. Oh. So I can see a Fox Spirit, a Keys' Call, and a Beans in Leo's hand. So what he could do here is Awakened Beans for like a final battle. But that kind of play is always intimidating to make, and instead he's got a Planting Beans, not Awakened. I would assume the only other thing he could send to his grave would be Bear Magic. But yeah, there's the Bear Magic. I'm just not sure how I feel about only getting one use out of it when he could have just awakened the being, searched final battle, and passed. Because Daniel doesn't have a killing stone. He's not really under any pressure from him to, just give up his turn on this. And he's going to summon a Fox Spirit instead. Daniel has a Gale Force in hand, and it looked like a second copy of Abdul. Very fortunate for him, as he does only run the 2 copies between his main and side deck. And instead, Leo's just going to play the Fox Spirit and pass. So, calling a stone. It's possible that Leo didn't want to make the final battle play because it does just lose to a hard cast Severing Winds. And there's going to be a Rezzard coming down. That's actually really, really rough, as it does take the Bear Magic away from Leo. So Leo's going to Demonic Dead in response, but even this is awful because now the Abdul can attack into that. He's going to have to block with one of his other creatures, and here comes a second Tama from Daniel Voon, so he now has the option to just sack off both of his Tamas and kill that Demonic Dead. So he's going to attack the Abdul into it first. It's really going to force Leo's hand here. Probably going to block with the Riding Hood, as he would get a stone out of it at least. And Daniel Voon sacrificing both his Tamas to kill the Riding Hood. Leo thinking, but I'm really not seeing anything that he could do about this. I'm a little surprised that Daniel didn't use the Rezzard on entry to get the killing stone, or to get the Bear Magic out of the grave. I mean, obviously there's not a whole lot that Leo could do with it, but he does have the blue mana open. So Rezzard's gonna get rid of Demonic Dead. And still not getting rid of the Bear Magic. That was a pretty big blunder from Daniel there. And he's gonna have to use his Energize to Fair spell it. And he left in the Fair spell, which is correct against Blue Fox, but yeah, I'm not sure why it's possible that he just didn't think about the Remnant on the Bear Magic, but it is a pretty big blunder there not to exile it with your Rezzard, is my opinion of this. So now for the rest of the turn, Leo is going to be vulnerable to Severing Winds, but Daniel, only running 2, doesn't have it, at least in this particular instance, so Leo's going to get to make a Chimera, although the Bear Magic was negated, so Abdul is still on the field. I'm hoping that Leo didn't forget that. Okay, he doesn't go for his stone deck, so looks like he didn't. And that is going to put Daniel at 37 to Leo's 36. And then at the end of the turn, it looks like Daniel's going to remove that killing stone. So Daniel kind of playing the slow game here, not really concerned about flipping, more so just holding down the game with this Rezzard and this Abdul, whereas Leo has a Keys' Call in hand. Just trying to get on the board here with his Griffin. Because one of the answers when your opponent's playing the slow game and just building up this board is you just fly over them, but as we know, Daniel has a Gale Force in hand, so not going to work out super well for Leo, unfortunately. And I don't think there's anything in his hand that's going to stop a Gale Force Leo electing not to play Fair's spell at this event. He side decks 2 copies, but I'd be very surprised if that comes in the Fox matchup. It makes more sense for that to come in for things like Prisia and blue decks. So Daniel going to call another Shitbrick, still not concerned about flipping his Fox. It makes sense that neither of these are really fodder for Chimeras, so he's going to play a Tama that's going to get Keys called. Kind of makes sense, especially if Leo has a second one. He really just wants to draw the card, and because Daniel has already called a stone, he knows that there's no threat of flipping. He doesn't need to save this for a Chimera. So that's kind of a blunder on Daniel's part to call a stone before doing something as insignificant with his turn as, playing a Tama. And it would have been a really heads-up play to not call the stone, to avoid the potential of a Keys' Call on your Tama. It's not something I would have expected my opponent to do either. and it's very based on his hand. He probably has absolutely no intention of flipping this turn anyway, so he thought it was fine to call a stone, and he does get a little bit arguably punished for it. And he's going to attack with his Abdul, really daring Leo to block with the Griffin. Leo has to know that something's up, but in situations like this, you've got kind of a Mexican standoff where he's already attacked with the Abdul. You really want to block it with the Griffin, but you know that this is the top 8 of worlds. Your opponent's not doing it for no reason. He's got some kind of answer, and you really have no choice but to block it and see what that answer is. Because Arrow Trap only works on attacking resonators, right? So there's no way that it's an Arrow Trap to deal with it. So now he's coming out with the Rezzard. He's looking at how many creatures are in Daniel's graveyard. Looks like the answer is just the 2 Tamas. So Leo going to take that as well. No cards exiled for Daniel Voon as far as I know, so that is going to put Leo at 25 because of the Rezzard and Abdul hits. And he's going to pass the turn to Leo. Leo's going to draw. Daniel's still holding that Gale Force. Probably didn't want to play it last turn because he wanted the Tom had already come down and he didn't want to get Severing Winded. But we'll see where things go. He can just throw it down at any point now. Actually, probably should have done that pre-untap, as now he is vulnerable to a Millennia Bond. But it's possible he has another answer for that as well. And Leo's going to final battle. And he's going to pay... So, Griffin's going to get Tamad. And then Daniel's going to pay 6 to remove his entire graveyard. So the Rezzard's an 8/8, and if I remember correctly from my earlier watching, Leo did say that he pays 800 for this. So if the Rezzard goes into the grave, then we'll know for sure. Daniel could still play around this with like a bird inheritance, but no, doesn't have it. There's the Gale Force on the Griffin. Leo doesn't have Millennia Bond, and he's just going to call a stone. Leo obviously in a very rough spot here. If these blue Fox decks get taken off their Demonic Dead, there is not a lot of black creatures left in the main deck. There is 4 Kitsune King, 4 Fox Spirit, 1 Assistant, and 3 Messenger, which sounds like a lot, but Kitsune King kind of a big commitment. Obviously couldn't come down that turn with Abdul being on the board, and it looks like he doesn't have any green creatures either. The blue Fox deck is very spell heavy, running 18 spells, it looks like, by my count, which is a lot more than you want in your Fox deck. You're going to kind of clog up on it, as we see Leo doing now. And talking to Leo after his top 8 match, I believe he said that one of the problems he ran into in this match was that he drew all 4 copies of Planting Beans. If you've ever played Fox and you've done that yourself, you know how absolutely terrible it feels. Anytime you open more than 2 Planting Beans, you just feel like the game is a no-go. And Daniel here has opened his 2nd copy of Abdul. Still, he's debating between calling a stone and flipping. He does have a Fox Spirit in hand, so it would make sense to flip, but instead, not going to do that. So now, see, Leo could Kitsune King here, but there's an Abdul on field again, and two of the 6 Abdul answers that he runs are already gone. Actually, just 4. Well, 6 if you count the Dark Purges. So, and Leo's fallen low on life, man. Oh, that's right. If Leo paid 800 or -8 the board, he would actually be down another 800 because you have to pay twice the amount, so 1600. So Leo's actually, this makes a little more sense. And he's going to play the Riding Hood, attempt to play the Fox Spirit, go for his stone deck, and remember that there is an Abdul on the field. but his Riding Hood is a 7/7, so that at least can block the Abdul. Otherwise, Daniel would have lethal on board, so it would be 800 from these two, and then a Killing Stone to finish it off. Oh, Daniel has Final Battle in hand. That's probably going to be the end of the game, right? Oops. So he's going to pay 2 mana, 3 mana. Just communicating the life payment as well as the mana payment that he's doing, just trying to make sure that he can kill Leo's board. Leo's going to Fox Effect in response. Not going to update the life totals just yet, as I feel the game is over. It's possible that, okay, yeah, the Amit comes down, so it's very possible that enough came down for the Griffin to not make it. Although it would have been, it wouldn't really matter either way. Daniel gonna call another stone here. Mostly because the blue man is being left open. You know, you really don't want to like flip and run into a Keys' Call. So he's gonna attack with the Tama. Alright, now I have to know life totals. Leo went up to 10 off of his Killing Stone, now he's down to 8. Daniel Voon probably didn't pay through the Griffin because he had Gale Force in hand, so assuming he only paid enough to kill the Riding Hood, it was 3 mana, so 800 life. So 800 life plus the Killing Stone put him at 2000. If my math is correct, which I think it is. A little surprised he didn't attack with the Abdul there. Actually, no, I'm not, because he didn't flip. So Leo gonna call a stone. This is very likely Leo's final turn, and Daniel does have an intimidating number of cards in hand. Still hasn't flipped his Fox, so these Keys' Calls have actually been more of a detriment than anything to Leo. And we see a Planting Beans and a, I think that was a Heavenly Gust. So we're going to see an Awakened Beans. Of course, Beans not being quick cast, there's nothing that Daniel can do to that with 1 mana. The problem is that Leo doesn't have enough life to final battle, and he doesn't have enough mana left over after the Awakened Beans to really final battle either. As if he were to tap his 2 mana and pay 800 life, that would be just enough to kill Abdul, and he would lose the game as a result. So he's really got to think about this one. Dark Purge, probably the direction he wants to be going, but without another creature in hand, there's really nothing he's going to be able to do about this. He's going to grab Millennia Bond. And pass the turn. So all Daniel has to do... Oh no, Daniel only has 1 Killing Stone. So he won't even be able to, like, make an Amit, attack through with the Abdul, leave him at 1, and then Killing Stone again. Yeah, he's only got 1 non-kill. Okay, so he's going to ensure that a Killing Stone gets put on top. But should also be calling a stone this turn, or flipping this turn. I guess it makes sense that Leo went for the Millennia Bond. If he were to get final battled a second time here, he would just straight up lose the game, so Daniel gonna punch through with that Tama. him at 6, then punch through with the Fox Spirit, put him at 3. And just a slow, kind of calculated kill by Daniel Boone. Leo is obviously not exerting any pressure. Neither of them actually have any creatures in hand after this, it looks like. Leo gonna draw. Untap, call a stone. And yeah, that's the 4th Planting Beans drawn by Leo. And he's just gonna pass the turn. He's not even gonna search for anything. Daniel going to Inheritance a bird. And flip his Fox. And attack for lethal with his Fox Spirit. And Leo extends the hand. And that is it for our top 8 match between Daniel Boone and Leonardo Miceli. Daniel will be moving on